So how does a boy with a seemingly ordinary face, who seemed destined for a life of complete anonymity, how does he become the man responsible for some of the most absolute horror the world has ever seen?
And look, this isn't just some abstract history question. It's a question that echoes through one of the deadliest conflicts in all of human history, a trauma that has scarred generations and literally changed the face of the world forever.
To even begin to understand how a man from absolutely nowhere could rise to the top and commit the worst crimes imaginable, we have to rewind the clock. We have to go way back to the very beginning, to a time before the monster even existed. Our story starts in a pretty unexpected place. Not with a politician, not with a soldier, but with a young boy who had one single, all-consuming dream: to become a great artist.
So he's born in this small Austrian town, and honestly, his childhood was pretty uneventful. At school, his teachers thought he was talented, sure, but also lazy and undisciplined. The real turning point, though, came when his very strict father died. That basically freed Hitler to chase the one thing he actually cared about. So at 18, he packs his bags for Vienna, completely convinced that's where he's going to find his destiny.
And I really want to stress this. Art wasn't just some hobby for him. Drawing was his entire world. It was the source of this almost unbreakable self-confidence, this deep-down belief that he was an artist of, exceptional genius.
In his mind, the entrance exam for the prestigious Vienna Academy of Fine Arts, that was just a formality, a box to tick. I mean, he was a genius, right? But the Academy's decision was brutal and simple. Just two words that completely shattered his world. Test drawing unsatisfactory. Rejected.
Yeah, decades later, he'd write that this day was one of the absolute worst of his life. For a young guy with that much supreme self-confidence, this kind of failure wasn't just a bump in the road. It was completely incomprehensible, an injustice. He was just devastated.
And that rejection? Well, that's the real tipping point. It's the beginning of this dark, downward spiral. This is the moment where the failed artist, just eaten up by a shame he can't accept, starts looking for someone else to blame.
So he stays in Vienna, but he's so ashamed he doesn't tell a soul about his failure, not even his own family. He lives off a small inheritance till the money runs out, and pretty soon, the aspiring artist is homeless, sleeping on park benches, selling hand-painted postcards to tourists just to get by. He'd become a total outcast.
And it's in this rock-bottom state that he starts gobbling up these radical, anti-Semitic newspapers that were all over Vienna. And they offered him really simple answers for his very complex failures. You can see right here how a personal grudge finds a political target. The Jews, he read, were a disease, a foreign body controlling culture and finance, holding back true Germans, like him.
You see, when you have a personality that just cannot accept its own failures, you need an enemy on the outside. He saw himself as this incredible genius, so any rejection had to be because of some conspiracy against him. The anti-Semitic ideas of the time didn't just give him an opinion. They handed him a ready-made enemy to blame for everything wrong in his life.
I mean, think about it. He was on the verge of just fizzling out, a complete nobody, just filled with hate. But then a massive global event would change his destiny forever, offering him not just a rescue, but a whole new identity. And then, bam, summer of 1914, World War I explodes onto the scene. Hitler, who was Austrian, eagerly volunteers for the German army. Now, for a man whose life was a total failure, the war wasn't some catastrophe, it was a salvation. It was his chance to finally belong. All of a sudden, for the very first time, this guy who was sleeping on park benches, he had a home. He had comrades, a kind of family. He had a clear mission, a structure, a purpose, and he became a model soldier, totally dedicated, obedient, and brave. And get this, for the first time ever, he actually gets recognized for something. He was awarded the Iron Cross, a really high military honor. This was his first official distinction, and he would wear that medal for the rest of his life as a symbol of his one and only success.
But then, 1918, it's over. Germany surrenders. And for Hitler, this was a deeply personal tragedy. It meant going right back to square one, back to being a nobody.
So, what do you do when the only life where you ever felt like you mattered is suddenly gone?
So what does he do? He decides he will do anything to stay in the army. And it's that desperation that leads him, completely by accident, into the one place where his particular mix of resentment and passion could be turned into a weapon.
And this is where a guy named Captain Karl Mayer comes in. He's the head of Army intelligence, and he needs guys to spy on these political groups that might be radical. Hitler jumps at the job. So his political journey begins as a lowly informant, ratting out his own comrades just to stay in uniform. So picture this, September 12, 1919. Mayer sends him to observe this tiny little group called the German Workers' Party. During the meeting, some guy gets up and starts arguing for Bavarian separatism. Hitler, a die-hard nationalist, just loses it. He leaps onto a table and unleashes this furious rant. And something incredible happens. The whole room just goes silent, totally captivated by his passion. And in that one moment, he discovers his one true and terrible talent.
And right away, this new talent he's discovered gets mixed with all that hatred he'd been brewing in Vienna. In his very first political letter, written that exact same year, he lays out his whole ideology with this chilling clarity. The goal, he wrote, wasn't just to limit the privileges of Jews, but their definitive removal.
He joins this tiny party. He's member number 55. Just let that sink in for a second. Only 2 years later, this nobody isn't speaking to a few guys in a beer hall anymore. He's commanding the stage at the Circus Krone in Munich, holding audiences of 6,000 people in the palm of his hand. His rise wasn't just fast, it was absolutely meteoric.
And really, that brings us full circle, right back to where we started. How does a boy become a monster? Well, for Adolf Hitler, it was a path paved with failure, resentment, and a desperate need to belong. But the last, crucial ingredient was discovering that he could speak. For a man who had been ignored, rejected, and dismissed his entire life, the feeling of thousands of people hanging on his every word, that wasn't just power. It was like heaven. It was everything.